What's up, good people? It's your pal Terry Bean, and we are back with another fun and exciting episode of Business Growth Time. Today, we've got the incomparable Roger Burnett. Before I introduce him and tell you all how great he is, let me say hello to my high school pal, the lovely and talented, the one and only marketing maven, Facebook ads pro. Don't forget Instagram, Janet E. Johnson, where today the E is going to stand for empathetic. And I think that's kind of fitting for what we're going to talk about today, Janet.
Okay. Empathy. Okay.
Empathy. So listen, in 2022, if there's anything we need more of, let's call it empathy or kindness, but you're not Janet K. Johnson. So how you doing? How are the holidays? How is all the stuff that's happened since I've seen you last?
Well, if we get into that, you'll have tears going down your face.
You know, that's a good point. I do follow you on Facebook. So sorry
yeah,
for
you know,
losses,
we've had a lot of
so
pets dying in two and 2 weeks. So yeah, and then COVID. So yeah, it's been fun. But you know what? We're past it now, so we're moving on. But I guess give me a little empathy because yeah, it was not long old pets. So they lived a long, good life. But
yeah, the dog was 15, right? Isn't that
almost 16? Yep.
That's a good run for a
and it was my cat. Everybody cares about the dog more, but yeah, I have my cat too. So yeah.
And your cat was old, right?
Yep, she was almost 16. We got them both at the same time.
Oh wow!
And
they went out at the same time. Wow, maybe it was broken heart stuff. Was it the cat whose butt used to show up in our podcast early on?
No, he's with me now. No,
okay.
No, it's one that just was old and lost her eye, and she would never have been in our podcast. She stayed away from people other than me.
So, got it.
One of those cats, yeah.
So all right. Well, enough about tragic pets.
Depressing.
Let's talk about Roger Burnett, and then we'll talk to Roger Burnett. I met Roger a few years ago. He lives about 20 miles from me. We've done the home and home boat experience where he came and hung out on my boat and I went and hung out on his, and it bugs me a little bit, but his boat is cooler. But his house is cooler, so it's very fitting. And so he's a super good dude. He's a really talented marketer, a really talented sales professional. He hosts his own podcast called So You're in Sales. He's got about 110 episodes, right, roughly, under his belt there. He's an author. He's the CEO of Social Good Promotion. So he has been in the business of helping you put your brand on cool things, but it's not your typical trinkets and trash stuff. It's the idea of buying those goods from companies that are into sustainability or green manufacturing or doing something valuable for the planet. So each time you give your pen, your notebook, your coffee mug, whatever, there's an inherent story tied to it. So Roger's always about storytelling and making an impact. So without further ado, author, business leader, sales guy, cool cat, Roger Burnett. How you doing, brother?
You know, it's always fun to hear somebody else's perspective on what you've done. So thank you for that. That was really cool. It's nice to hear it come from how Terry sees it. And largely, I must be doing a decent job of trying to convey what we do, because you did a really good job of encapsulating that for me. So thanks, man. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, man. We'll cut this little recording and you could just use that as your Flavor Flav Band video.
It's my walkout music.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome. Yeah, Janet always makes fun of me. She's like, I don't even know why we send you bios. You don't look at them. I'm like, I don't know. If I know somebody, I know somebody. Come on, girl. That's it.
Yeah.
So Roger, you know what? I kicked off the show talking about a concept called empathy. Let's can we use that as a jump off point, because I think your book talks a little bit about it. I know your business talks a little bit about it, and I know your life is a lot about it. So what does empathy mean to you?
Yeah, wow. What a time in life to either understand the concept of empathy or not, because if you don't, it's pretty obvious, right? either have this or you need to work on developing it, because humanity at this moment in what's going on in the world today has never really been more important than it is right now. You know, we've all gone through a bunch. The world has been turned upside down, whether it's your personal life or your professional life. You know, we've all had to go through stuff. And one of the prevailing concepts that I always revert to when I think about what's happened during the pandemic is this idea of same storm, different boats. Like, we all are going through some stuff, and nothing like a pandemic to make us all realize that we're all actually going through some stuff. When previously, maybe when things were going a little bit better societally, at least economically, we were not really focused on what things other people may have been going through. But when the pandemic came along and changed that environment for all of us, we all suddenly had things we were going through. And so empathy is your ability, in my mind, to be able to recognize and appreciate the fact that somebody else is in a boat, in a storm, dealing with some stuff. And if you're not capable of being able to appreciate the fact that that's happening for them, you're going to miss out on all kinds of opportunities to connect with that person on a real and a visceral level at a time in life when that is the most important thing that people are looking for, especially when it comes to the relationships they may be trying to build in their professional lives. Largely now are really driven by, can I connect with that person in that kind of way to feel comfortable that if I have to make a risky choice or a decision, that I at least can defend why I'm choosing this particular person to make that choice with.
I love that. I love that. Janet, what do you think? You're the inspiration for that E word today.
I think he put it really good. I mean, it's a time in our life right now where, you know, we all need to have empathy for each other. There's just so many things going on with it. So I do want to hear about what brought you to where you are. Like, tell us your story, because Terry may know, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And the audience doesn't know. So,
Honey, can I get some popcorn? Huh? Oh, sorry.
Right. So here comes the stories, right? So the foreword of my book opens with 7-year-old me laying on the floor of our home, hiding from a salesperson at the door. And
funny.
my question to my mom was, why are we hiding from a person at the door when lots of other people came to our door and we never hid from anybody? What was different about that was causing this to occur? And that's when she laid on me the evil that is a salesperson and what that means to your life if you allow that person access to you. And so fast forward 10 years to 17-year-old Roger being told by people, wow, you are going to be a great salesperson. It's really caused a lot of conflict for me, right? So I spent the better part of the early stage of my sales life trying to reconcile the conflict that I felt with what was clear was I had a lot of what historically we would have all thought would be traits that would make for a good salesperson. I'm curious by nature. My interpersonal skills are pretty good. You know, I can make you feel comfortable in a person-to-person setting to the point where maybe you'll tell me some things. But if that's causing me conflict to feel like I'm being evil and crooked and wrong because that's what my mom taught me, I had to do something to fix that. Worse yet, I'm very competitive and I was not winning the game against the other salespeople. So I was very upset with myself. So I had all of this conflict going on. And what I finally came to the conclusion was, if I just adopted a strategy where I was the person who told the buyer all the questions they should be asking that they didn't know the questions, that I would be the trusted advisor for that potential prospect, and maybe I would get a leg up over the competition, and it worked like a charm. And once I started doing that, my career took off because it resolved all of that conflict that I had around what being an actual salesperson was. And that was all pre-internet. So I was selling before the world changed and the power of the information became in the hands of the consumer. So as my career evolved, I had to learn how to change my value proposition, while at the same time realizing that I really was more gratified in sales when we were able to achieve something amazing for our clients than what the money was all about. So as it became more about legacy for me, it became apparent through a whole series of events that Terry knows about that brought me to what was very apparent to me was that social good promotions and a business that had a purpose-led strategy would be exactly the kind of business that I, at this stage of my career, should be running. And I have a very clear understanding of what I want my legacy to be when I'm ready to be done. And we're just working our butts off every single day trying to make that come true out in the marketplace and in the world. And it's been a lot of fun. We've grown fast. We've had explosive growth. We've gone from $0 in revenue to almost $500,000 in just over 3 years. And that's in the middle of a pandemic and a global supply chain meltdown. So we're feeling good, pretty good about things right now.
Those are our issues, aren't they? Turns out if people can't get the stuff they order, they don't love that.
Yeah, or if there's no way to exchange those things in person because you're not supposed to be together.
True.
That's also difficult for a marketplace, just so you know.
Yep.
That's awesome. So talk to us about, really, because you were in that business, you were in the business of branding goods and social good, just because you're just heart led and that was purpose driven. What was the moment when you were like, man, we are doing this wrong and we have to switch how we do it, and add in a little bit about why having a story around the goods you give someone is so important?
Yeah, well, I mean, depending on how long you've been in the marketplace, you may know what my advertising medium is called as trinkets and trash. I mean, there's this sort of seedy underside of what our medium is about, because you don't need to buy it from a person. You can just go out and buy stuff, and you don't need to give any consideration to the ramifications of the purchase that you're making. And we know lots of people who have a closet full of stuff that they bought that they never did anything with because it didn't really work out for them. And those of us in the marketplace who really care about what we do as an advertising medium, don't want to be painted with that brush. We don't want to be seen as brand fill, which is what we've called that, is a campaign that really has no real value to it, no utility, no usefulness, and it goes right in the waste stream. That's bad for everybody. It's bad for the people who sold it, the people who bought it, the people who received it, and lastly, and most importantly, it's bad for the planet. And those of us who care about our marketplace worry about, if we let that keep happening, eventually it feels like there will be societal blowback for that. And there have been articles written, discussions had publicly around, like, maybe we should just not buy merch anymore for our events. And Fast Company has had articles about it. NPR had a piece about, like, hey, that's wasteful. And while I'm a salesperson that operates in this medium, I agree with that. I believe it's 100% true. If you do it badly, that's crap. Stop it. Stop doing it, because all it does is wreak havoc in a bunch of ways that does nobody any good. But if you can get to where you can take what we have available as our medium, and you do a better job of aligning your choices with your brand values, the things that are important to your organization, or the things that you want to communicate to the people that you would give this stuff to in a more meaningful way, so that the product isn't just an afterthought transaction. It's actually a part of the narrative of what you want the recipient to think about your brand. Then it becomes a keepsake. It becomes a commemorative. It becomes a reflection of the relationship. And we all have beach towels from Disney. We all have concert t-shirts from our favorite shows. We all have those things that we hold on to as memories of something amazing that we've done in our lives. And when it's done right, our medium is 100% a reflection of that. So what we try to preach is, yeah, buy some stuff, but only if we can make it be worthy of what we just talked about in a way that I can then arm you as the buyer of that with how you're going to go use it now that you've made this investment. Because there
Can you
should
give
be
us some examples, like
Yeah, I mean,
specific examples?
amazingly good ones, right? And a lot of what I write about in my monthly blogs are what happens when I'm out in the field having these conversations with people. Long story short, I arrived at a moment where the tumblers that my customer wanted to buy for their company picnic to hand out to their employees, we were able to buy them from a factory that makes a contribution to refurbish homes for disabled veterans who've been wounded in combat. Why that was important was the owner of the company is a combat wounded veteran who also lost his son in Afghanistan. So when we told them that now you could hand out these tumblers and explain to your employees why this was an important purchase for the organization, that suddenly that tumbler is a representation of the brand values that that company is all about, which is we care about veterans and we care about veterans causes. And they literally were in tears over the idea of this, what would have been a nice thing they were going to do for their employees, giving them something during the company picnic. That's noble. But giving them something that would remind them of why the company is in business is a much different thing in the same representation of the product.
Makes sense. Yep, yep. And then what would be examples of items that are kind of more of a waste? I mean, I'm trying to think of like the things that I just pick up at trade shows and throw right in the garbage can when I get home. Is that?
Well, and
Tell your
like,
pen story. Tell
Yeah.
your
yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it. So when I'm selling or buying things, or when I'm making product suggestions to you, I'm still using all of the same categories that would potentially be seen as items that could be seen as throwaways. Take a writing instrument, for
Sure.
instance. I have it in my hand. I keep it. This is a constant reminder of the story that I'm about to tell, because it was these pens, these very ones, that were the vehicle I used to execute the strategy that Terry wants me to talk to you about. I was able to fill a job for an intern, an unpaid internship at a job fair where everybody else at the job fair had real jobs with real benefits and real money. Because I was able to communicate that the pens that we buy to give away at job fairs are sourced from a factory that when we buy a box, they give away a box to a school that needs writing instruments. So it's not that I wanted to give the pen to the potential candidate. It was, I wanted them to remember the story. Because if that story resonated with them, then maybe our values are in alignment sufficiently well that they would forego any of those real jobs and just come work for me. And sure enough, it worked like a charm. We filled it. And when the candidate who filled the job called me to leave me the voicemail to say she was interested, she said, I just wanted you to know yours was the only thing I remembered that night when I got home, because it was such a great story that it makes me want to be a part of what you're doing.
Cool.
And what I love about Roger is he's not trying to sell trinkets and trash, right? He's trying to help organizations build a strategy around branding themselves better, telling stories that engage other people. So, can you, I mean, without giving away all the secret sauce, can you kind of walk us through what that first prospect meeting looks like, where you get them hooked and maybe share some ideas with Ernie? We call our audience Ernie because, you know, your audience has to have a name and it had to be
That's
an
cool.
E word. So,
What's up, Ernie?
Ernie. What up, Ernie? Can you give an example or an idea of what some questions, some things they may think about and able to do this for themselves?
Well, so again, the fun part, so there's really two ways to get at it. It's, I have a problem that needs solved. So let's use a real world example right now of a problem that listeners, Ernie, probably have. They have unfilled jobs. They need people. And the people who used to be the people suddenly don't seem to want to be the people anymore. And that's a puzzle for a lot of people because what the heck happened? Used to be people wanted this, now what the heck, right? So how can we reimagine what it is about what that job is that would make it be something that someone would actually want to come and do now? Because clearly whatever the things were before are not the things anymore, right? So even at a restaurant, it's reimagining what a server's role is in the organization and retraining the staff to be able to deliver a different kind of experience for me as the patron of the restaurant, because my relationship with the restaurant now needs to extend beyond just the time that I'm in the restaurant. And if the server can do a good job of building that story and sending that customer away from the restaurant, knowing that there's more things that that restaurant wants them to do, like, I don't know, maybe buy some branded merchandise and support the restaurant by giving us money for things that aren't stuff that I'm eating, because there's goodwill built into the relationship that I have between me and that restaurant, that I absolutely want to see them not go out of business, right? And so being able to build vehicles that can serve that kind of purpose, and then layer in a community activation where maybe now that restaurant is doing a t-shirt that benefits a specific nonprofit in our community. Now you're building bridges between the for-profit community, the nonprofit community, and a brand that has some goodwill built in the community that isn't being taken advantage of today. We're able to build activations around that goodwill that benefits all parties. And it works very well when it's done right. But we have to build trust in all of the parties to have them recognize that, wow, no, this is something absolutely that we all should be doing.
Makes sense.
I like it a lot.
Right?
Janet, what questions do you have? Do you use trinkets and stuff? Do you have branded stuff? You know branded stuff, do you?
I'm an online marketer. It's kind of, and what you said at the beginning was like, I've thought about that. It's like, man, we don't have these meetings anymore in person. So it's like, it's, all moved to, an online world, Zoom meetings and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's got to have been a different world for your business. But I do know, yeah, I don't have anything around me. I'm trying to look around me. In the past, though, like if somebody gave me, I do have a mug somewhere from my coach. They sent that to us, as soon, but no story, no nothing, you know what I mean? But they did send a mug that's usable. And at times I've had branded some of these, but yeah, it's an interesting, very, very interesting model. And I think there's certain types of businesses that use that the most. But I think if you can have a story behind it, that is a huge thing, because then people, well, they might feel guilty throwing it away. I mean, that's another thing too. It's like, wait, should I throw that away or not? So I don't know if that's a thought, but,
Well,
that side of things could happen too.
So the beauty of what our push away from brand fill has created within our own marketplaces this amazing ripple effect, right? So marketplaces are always driven by demand. So as either I, as the purchaser of these goods that I'm out selling in the marketplace, or more importantly, my buyers who are making these requests of people like me more and more every single day, what it's creating is momentum around how our factories have to respond to that demand in order to get this dollar as it continues to be spent going forward. Because merch spend is down, don't get me wrong, it's down a lot because of the pandemic, but in the rebound, what we've seen is our ability to do things like convey corporate culture to a work from home environment. We're as good as almost everything out there, because there's a dopamine rush that happens when you get a box at your door that you didn't order. And if the stuff in there is good and it's on brand and it tells the story well, and it conveys the emotion that that sender was trying to awaken in the recipient, then we've done our job. And the other side of that, the commerce side of that, like being able to take in drop ship addresses and just be able to do that work, kitting, distribution, and fulfillment, we were already really good at that stuff. It rose in importance to our customers during the pandemic because of what happened. And it's really created this interesting paradigm now where if you look in the marketplace and think about like what McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dunkin', they've all been doing merch activations during the pandemic. And it's brought a new shine to what we do, because in the corporate space, we're showing those case studies and saying, you can build that same kind of shine for your own brand, for your own people, if that's what you want to do. And we're good at it because we're the ones who helped McDonald's and KFC and everybody else do those activations. We know exactly how to do it. So we've seen the spend move in our direction largely now in new ways because of our ability to meet the new demand that's been created because of what happened in the marketplace. So it's a really exciting time for those of us who, like you, Janet, take a more of a agency-like approach to it. Like, let's not just make it be about product. That's dumb. Let's make it be about what you want this outcome to be, and let's build campaigns that could be a combination of digital, email, physical, and in person. And let's put that all together in a really nice package and let people execute on it and see where the results come out, because they're almost always better.
Bring up the stat that you brought up to me before the call, before we hopped on, because I think that is a very interesting stat on how many times touch points.
Yeah, so I pay pretty close attention to HubSpot's state of marketing report that they publish every year. And as a student of just sales in general, you know, there's this age-old discussion point about how many touches does it take a salesperson to convert a suspect to a prospect? And we all know, no matter whether it's 1, 5, 100, or 1,000,000, most salespeople quit too soon. But what's really important from the mechanics of sales is knowing how many there are and having at least some semblance of fighting, trying to get to that number. Well, it's 18 now. You need 18 things at your disposal to be able to put in front of someone to maybe get yourself to that finish line. And if you don't, like, how many people have 18? Hell, how many people have 5? So we spend a lot of time with our clients trying to devise, what does 18 look like, so that you can go take that back to your CRM and put it in there so you know what you're supposed to be doing on a Tuesday, right? Because otherwise it gets really difficult and you spend most of the time just staring at your inbox.
That's
amazing.
That is very interesting. Took me about 10 times seeing that commercial for that thing, for the
Right?
street strider. So, but
Well,
they were, they just were in front of you again and again and again. And yep, so that makes a lot of sense. And so you do different touch points. That's cool.
sales is hard.
Why?
Sales is
Mhm.
super hard. And it's, if you don't have a game plan, it's like trying to go out on the football field and play against an NFL team and you have no playbook. Like I mean, it's already hard enough as it is. The pandemic made it even harder yet. We've got to have some kind of idea around how we're going to go about doing this, or you're going to drive yourself crazy.
I agree.
Roger, why are nonprofits such a great opportunity for you?
Well, for me, our mission is nonprofit focused. So our business card says on the back that we connect commerce with purpose to help clients tell the story of their brand. So really what we're trying to do is we're trying to live at the intersection of for-profit and nonprofit businesses because we're a purpose-driven business ourselves. And really what we're hoping is for businesses who like to align on purpose, we're going to look really good as a partner. And if together we share in our belief that our businesses can make the world a better place, then wouldn't I be a really great partner for you if I already had in my back pocket a lot of relationships with nonprofits so that once we've waken up what it is you care about organizationally, if I can immediately just connect you with an organization that their mission aligns with what you believe now, and then we create these activations that we were talking about earlier, I've really just shortened the amount of time between when you come to the realization that you want to do this and your ability to do it. Secondarily, I feel like because I have been a volunteer in the nonprofit community for most of my adult life in some way, shape, or form, what I know about nonprofits is they're so mission focused that they're not good marketers. And they do really great work in the community that is deserving of more attention. And if I could give myself a chance to be able to help those nonprofits do a better job of telling their story, then I'm all for that. Because I feel like that makes our communities where we live and work better by virtue of what the nonprofits can do to serve the community in that way. And if I can help bring for-profit dollars to that effort by virtue of my relationship building, then I believe I'm serving the mission of what we set out to do when we made the company on day one. And it's been really effective so far. And, we're going to see now if we can really go for the big number and make ourselves $1 million business in the process as a result of using that strategy.
Very cool. Well, let's help you get there by tell people how to find you, your business, learn more, and also your book, because your book sounds interesting too. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, put a
well,
plug in for that for sure.
so I've done a lot of research on this whole idea of purpose being a differentiator. So being a student of selling, I always want to know what gives businesses a leg up over their competition. That's always been something that I've been interested in knowing about, because I've largely worked in commoditized industries my whole sales career. So you better have something more than the low cost provider if you want to have a career and feed your families, right? So the book I helped co-author really is a case study driven examination of how businesses who use a purpose-led strategy outperform the marketplace. So it's driven by over 300 case study citations that I was able to uncover during my research. And the analysis that we used around that case study research really serves as the framework for my argument why purpose is a superior strategy. And then if you believe my argument, the back half of the book is like, if you want to get started, here's ways that you could start yourself. And references to other businesses and what they did in my case study research that you could just adopt and use if you wanted to get going. So it's called Red Goldfish Promo Edition, and it's all based on pens and hats and, you know, all the ways that you're able to use these items to make your business stand out against the competition in your marketplace. So that's available on Amazon. It's in Kindle edition and paperback, so feel free to do that. I am available to speak to your group, your club, your association, your whatever, on this concept of marketing with purpose. Given that I've given that presentation 50 plus times all over the place. If you want to hit me up for that on LinkedIn, you're going to find me there. You're going to find me on most of the social media platforms that old folks like I live on, not TikTok. Sorry.
Terry's on TikTok now, though.
And then, you know, obviously Social Good Promotions is, you know, you'll find us out there, socialgoodpromotions.com. And I write a monthly blog. There's all kinds of ways for you to interact with me.
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
out there and
Okay, so it's Roger Burnett, and that's with 2 T's
got it.
as well, Burnett. So LinkedIn sounds like a great place. And your website, and say the name of your website again.
socialgoodpromotions.com.
Got it. Okay. All right. Any last words from you? This was great. It was very informative for me. I haven't even thought about this, you know, promotional goods for a long time, and that's, you know, due to the COVID, I'm sure that's a big thing.
Here's what I'm gonna leave Terry a little Easter egg here, right? We're gonna say it right now. There's an event happening later this year that Terry has been involved in for a very long time in TEDx Detroit, and I also, along with Terry and a bunch of other people, are gonna try to do something bananas this year at that event. Terry, you wanna talk about this real quick?
Yeah, man, we've got a super audacious goal of setting the world record for attendance, because, you know, Detroit's been one of the first TEDx's on the planet, right? We started 4 months after they allowed those to happen. We've had some of the larger ones, but somewhere in São Paulo, Brazil, they gathered 10,500 people back in 2014 for a TEDx event. And so we're like, you know what? That's our record. We're going to take that. We're bringing at least 12,000 people into Ford Field, home of the Motor City Kitties. And we'll see some actual winning there for a change. It'll be a good time, man. It'll be a good time. So yeah, thanks for teeing that up.
So I'm throwing down, I told the man on social media, I'm saying it here. I'm going to lead the charge. I'm going to be one of, like, we're going to do this thing and we're going to make this be a thing. So that's not happening until when, Terry, what month? October, November? October. So we've got 9 months to get our act together, people. And we are going to make this a thing. And we're going to have the purpose-driven group. We're going to figure out something that we're going to call ourselves, and we are going to grow this clan. And that's going to be the culmination of our growth period, is we're all going to hang out at TEDx Detroit and help set a world record for largest ever TEDx. And I'm down for it, man. Let's do this thing.
Very cool.
Boom. I like it. I like it a lot. Obviously I would.
Of course.
So that's awesome, man. All right. So yeah, connect with Roger. Start getting better at telling the story around why you do what you do. Here's the secret, people. When someone says, what do you do? And you answer what you do, you've probably given that answer 47,000 times and you're already bored with it. But when you answer why you do what you do, there's a lot more passion in that answer. And passion is what is engaging. So Roger's a master at it. Janet's great at it. I've heard of it. Life is good. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Janet, where do they find us?
Pretty easy, businessgrowthtime.com. And you can find all the past podcast episodes. Terry and I have been doing this 8 years now. 8 years, I think, something like that. So there's a lot of podcasts.
It's been a
episodes.
minute. Or you think we're at like 175 yet? Where are we?
Somewhere around there. Yeah, we might even be closer to 180. So yeah, we're getting up there. And then we do mini ones in between. So there's others too. So we have a lot of content. Definitely check it out. Find us on iTunes or any of the podcast places as well. Thank you so much, Roger, for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fun.